blank space.
This is Heavy, Set, Go. 3 guys, 1 mic, a lot of heavy. Oh yeah.
Hello, I'm Jeff Crenshaw, and you're listening to Heavy, Set, Go. It is a big day today. We have a special guest, but first, I've got to put a couple of people on blast. Alan, I gave my truck to Charity Burrell, couldn't be here. We talked about it on the last podcast we did. The two-parter, the transmission on his truck was fucked up when he got the truck. Just days after he got it, he took it into a shop. He was driving it, and apparently it completely broke down en route, so he had to get it towed. And the shop basically said, "You're out of luck, son. You have to. Your truck is screwed." And so he thought to himself, Who deserves to have a truck that doesn't work? I know, the less fortunate. So he took his dead truck to Charity, and I'm sure the homeless are like burning it for warmth or something. I'm sure that's what they use dead cars for. Ben Eastman isn't here. I asked him, hey man, he's actually been like telling me, he's like, man, I got to get my act together. I got to get more of these podcasts. We'll do one. We'll do one soon. And our guest, coincidentally enough, reached out to me. Our mystery guest reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, want to do a podcast?" And I said, "Sure." And I thought to myself, "Wow, this would be an excellent opportunity for Ben Eastman to come out and be on a podcast to fill that void." So I reached out to him with the olive branch of friendship, with the best intentions in my heart. And you know what he said? "No, I'm spending time with my cousin tonight," which he could do on any night. But he chose to do it on the podcast tonight. But he had a pretty good night tonight. He went and saw Pam Grier, Jackie Brown herself, at the Hollywood Theater. I'm sure he'll have plenty of stories to tell about that when he's back on. In the meantime, our guest and myself went to the Globetrotter game, I guess is what you call it. It's not really a game, but it's more of an experience, a cultural experience. Right? Jordan Yaroslavsky?
Yeah, right. that was quite an experience.
Yeah.
Globetrotter game. It wasn't quite a game, but it wasn't quite a comedy, but it was a little bit of everything.
It was unique. It was like watching a bunch of people with Arrested Development, because they were clearly playing to the kids. They were acting like kids on a playground in a way, except they had much better skills when it comes to spinning basketballs and passing it to each other. There was a female Globetrotter, which I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's like, damn.
No, they're definitely, you got to be skilled with the basketball, and you got to be athletic.
Yeah.
Those guys can jump. They can shoot. They can't play defense.
They don't have to play defense.
Yeah. I guess defense is the one you could waive, but it's kind of like an all-star game. If you ever watched the all-star game in the NBA.
If I didn't know better, I would have assumed that the game was rigged. But they can't be. They're champions of the Globetrotters.
Well, it's staged.
What?
But see, rigged, you gotta be careful with that, because that's typically a Donaghy thing, when the corrupt ref who that's typically something that's done at that level, that's kept on the very down low. And
keep talking.
there's money involved. There's money on the table, for something to be rigged. That's pretty much the motive, as opposed to this was just staged, I guess. But
Rigged has more of an ulterior connotation than stage does. This is like the
Yeah.
WWE
Well-
of basketball.
Yeah, sure,
Is kind of what you're saying,
sure. Yeah,
as opposed to the Tammany Hall of basketball.
lost me there a little bit, but
Oh, gotcha.
Tammany Hall. It sounds familiar.
It was like a corrupt system of politics in New York City back in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Huge
Yeah.
political.
Yeah.
Boss Tweed. Have you ever seen? I don't want to get too far away from the game or the performance, but whatever it was. But have you seen Gangs of New York?
Yes, they were the party in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's basically. Tammany Hall was kind of the organization.
The
I think they were.
know-nothings.
Huh?
They called them the know-nothings.
I'm not sure about that, but they
Whenever
were.
somebody would get murdered, they would always know nothing.
Oh,
Call them the know-nothings.
that could be it. They were, I think, like a very powerful. They were the. They were
The
the
gangs,
Democratic Party of the 1850, like 60s and
Okay.
70s. So maybe racist. 'Cause
Wasn't everybody racist then?
there were to varying degrees. In
Right.
those days, the Democrats kind of led the charge of racism.
Right. As opposed to today, I guess. If
It's
you want to go there, but maybe
well,
no need.
Trump is kind of making that easier to say. Although I would never say that all or even the majority of Republicans are racist, but
No.
there's definitely racial politics.
It's a
at play.
touchy subject.
It is.
On both sides.
Donald Trump's racist. So anyway,
I'm a Trumpist, meaning I'm racially against Donald Trump.
oh, I got you. You're against a white guy with reddish hair.
No, I'm against the white guy with
Oh, just
his
that.
hair red.
It looks like a reddish. It's like if your hair was turned into cotton candy.
Yeah,
Like somehow they put your hair in a spinner and it like
cotton.
shat it upon his head.
He's got real hair though. $3,000 haircut.
Jimmy Fallon was kind enough to point that out when he ruffled his hair.
Yeah.
I never liked Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah.
But no, but let's not talk about him. Let's talk about you. How'd you get those tickets to the?
Oh,
That was a pretty cool story. You know
yeah.
a dude.
Well, I made a few connections on the black market, and not those tickets. Which
What tickets were you just talking about?
Yeah.
No, the Globetrotters.
Oh yeah.
You know a dude.
Well, I know actually. Well, I know two people actually that are not just know, but people who I grew up with who work in. One's at K2, and then another one's at Coin.
The sports announcers.
One of them is a sports announcer, David Solano. Is the sportscaster for Coin.
Mhm.
I think it's evening time.
He's a little older than you were.
Yeah, I grew up, and he and my older brother were always hanging out, and his mom and they would watch me, babysit me.
Mhm.
So David Solano, and it's pretty cool, really really cool person just to know someone that close and see him on TV every night. It's cool.
I imagine it's. I imagine your friends will think of the same thing when they listen to the podcast. I know this guy. I know Yaroslawski.
Yeah, I hope so. Although there's some memories some people may have of me that may not be pleasant. But
Should I brace myself for a Cosby revelation here?
wow, Cosby.
Do you have like a Bill Cosby story?
No.
Did you go around, feeding people Jell-O pudding?
No. I'm just saying, maybe.
What's
there's
wrong with pudding?
Stories that there's things that happened that like when you're a kid, like, and you're representing your turf or whatever, or what gangbanging. Yeah, I guess you call it.
I assume you're a blood because the red shirt would go well with your hair.
Yeah, I didn't have a choice. I had red hair that was so bright.
It would kind of, if you were a Crip, the Crips are blue, don't they?
Yeah.
So the red wouldn't really go well with that bright blue.
Exactly. So I was born into the life.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got
Because
you.
of my red hair.
You red-haired scoundrel.
Yeah.
So how did your life change after that South Park Ginger episode?
Not much, because I just dyed my hair.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What color? What did you dye it?
I don't know. I'm colorblind. What color is it?
It's red.
You serious?
Yeah.
Man. No wonder kids have been throwing those eggs at me as rotten eggs.
Die!
Call me Ginger? Wow.
Ginger! So do you live in a gingerbread house?
Huh. I'll have to remember that one. I will. I'll remember that one, Jeff.
Carry it with you next to your heart.
That's the first I've heard that.
So the game, it was funny. There was one part where they switched out the basketball with the beach ball filled with helium.
That was, one of the funniest moments.
It was, they took the basketball away from the opposing team, the World All-Stars.
Yeah.
Which, you have to be pretty badass to have the world as your home turf. So the Globetrotters had a really steep hill to climb. And I don't want to give away the tension, but they ended up winning the game.
Yeah, don't want to give up too much there. You won.
But there was a part where...
they slow-moed it. Was that the specific one where they went in slow motion?
No, that was cool too. What I was thinking of, and they took the real basketball away from the World All-Star player, and they gave him the beach ball filled with helium, but it was the same colors.
Right.
He went to shoot a basket, but instead it floated up to the roof of the Murray Center. And he's like, "Oh damn!" The Globetrotters like, "Oh damn!"
Did he
Everybody
say flamboyantly like that?
Probably. Like they were showmen. Of course, they had to be somewhat flamboyant.
Okay.
He's like, "Everybody say air ball," and everyone's like, "Air ball," and there's this like 2-year-old kid right behind us. He's like, "Air ball."
Air ball.
It was the cutest damn thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but laugh a little bit.
He said it a little late, right? He said it.
It was a few. It was
10 seconds.
Maybe probably about like 5 or 10 seconds later. It was cute though.
Yeah.
Yeah, bye. He was so excited.
Yeah.
There was the on my way up to Portland, there was this awkward moment. I was sitting in the zone where if someone with a handicap shows up or an old person, you have to move for them. And the doors open and this 60s, 70s aged dude in a motorized scooter gets on the bus. And I move to get up. He's like, "No, young man, you can stay where you are. I'm just getting off I'm getting off on the next stop." And then, okay. So I sit back down, and the train moves, and we get to the first stop after the one that he got on.
Yeah.
The doors open, and people get off. The doors close. This old dude in the motorized scooter is still there. And I'm thinking, oh, shit. Should I move? He said I didn't have to move. But it's like, you don't want to say, "I insist. You're handicapped. You need the spot."
Yeah.
Because it would be patronizing. But on the other hand, you start to feel like a dick.
No, yeah.
Because he's sitting out in the aisle with his like 4-wheel.
All you can do is offer. You know?
Absolutely.
But a lot of times they won't take it unless you actually get up. So that's what I do. I just get up.
Well, I was getting up, and he's like, "No, sit down."
Yeah.
But it was like 3 or 4 stops before he got off.
Yeah. maybe too. He felt like standing.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't standing. He was in his little 4-wheeler.
He still could have felt like standing.
I got you.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like I'm not disabled.
It's hard. Yeah, it's a good voice, by the way. He really painted the picture with that.
Well, I tried to, the best I could, recreate the voice from memory.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
It's a pretty good replication. I mean, not that I heard the voice, but
I sounded like an older gentleman.
it sounded like, somebody who'd sit down, Sonny. You don't need to. See?
There was, do you ever look around the Max at different people and then get caught looking at them?
I try not to.
Well, you try not to, but do you ever accidentally get caught?
Just in public in general.
Yeah, it's like, oh God.
I mean,
Let's look away quickly, or do you nod at them?
oh no, I don't care. I mean, if it's a woman, I probably want her to catch me looking most of the time.
You say, hey babe, want a taste of the Yaroslavsky?
It mentally, that's what I'm. Telekinesis is what I'm giving her.
I think
Penetrating her.
you'd be more of a gentleman. Ma'am, I'd like to take you to dinner.
Well,
tonight.
only when you talk. Only when you're talking.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. So when you're thinking much more explicit than that.
Madam, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen this side of the Mississippi. I would be honored if you would be my date and go to dinner with me at Fogo de Chao, and then an evening of dancing at the Crystal
What were
Ballroom.
we talking about?
The Globetrotter game.
No, but how did we get to? I forgot.
We were talking about disabled people, and then the Max, and then awkwardly looking at people, and then it evolved. But that was some game with the Globetrotters. Huh?
No, yeah, I mean the game. I mean the Globetrotters are always fun. That guy, the Hammer, number 31. I don't remember his full name, but he was a pretty entertaining guy to watch.
Really? And there's that one dude that jumped on top of the basketball hoop and refused to get down. And then he went through the hoop. That was
yeah.
fun.
I didn't know that you could fit through the basketball hoop.
It must be bigger than a regular one or something, or that guy must be
But
tiny.
they were playing on it, the same hoop. That's the thing.
Well, it must be a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Not much bigger, but
This is kind of interesting because he just got up. What happened is during the possession is the Globetrotter got up on top of the rim and started dancing up there.
yeah.
Which is one of the more memorable things from that game.
Mm-hmm.
And the refs are part of it too. They're part of the gig. And the refs trying to get him down. Come on, get down. And they're mic'd up so you can hear them on the around this arena.
Yeah.
And he said, "Get down." And the guy on the rim said, "All right." And he starts breakdancing. As much as you can breakdance on a rim.
Yeah.
Without breaking something besides the dance.
Ah.
Yeah. So he eventually got down, but jumped through the cylinder.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Like through the hoop.
He got
itself.
stuck, right? I mean, part of the setup.
Oh yeah, he got stuck. He got stuck in the hoop.
Yeah.
And they started pulling on his.
He was
He's
holding
kicking his
himself
little
up.
legs, holding himself
So
up.
that stuff is pretty entertaining. I mean, it's this combination of. I always enjoy things that involve both athleticism and comedy, and even like Chris Farley could do this thing where you don't think of him as very athletic at all.
No.
But he could do this thing where he could cartwheel.
Oh
He
yeah.
could pull the cartwheel.
Yeah, I don't know how he did that.
I don't know how. I can't do that. But it's probably because he's so short. It's all I can think of is he has really short arms, maybe.
It could be.
But that kind of stuff is hilarious because it's both the physical and the, it's just funny.
It was funny that there were parts where people were dancing in the audience.
Yeah.
But there was that one particular woman that was really into it.
She was right. We couldn't avoid her. Right. She was right in front of
Yeah.
the vantage point of what we had.
Yeah.
She did that kind of white woman 70s thing. Why they're playing YMCA.
Yeah.
Okay, and then she's dancing and she's got this rotary in her hips,
Yeah.
and it's well, she's just done this before,
Mm-hmm.
probably in '70s, and I've seen it before, from usually some sort of it's definitely, I don't know where it originated, but it's probably something new back then, kind of like twerking today, I guess. Although I give it more.
It's more classy than twerking.
I get, yeah, it's more something than twerking, yeah.
It reminds
More
me,
original, maybe.
like every single concert I've ever been to, where there's a singer or something, there's like a group of anywhere between like 3 to like 5 white women with plastic cups of beer, and they always have like their arms stretched above their heads,
yeah.
and they're kind of pivoting their entire bodies around their arms, like
Sure,
with the beer, and you
Yeah.
could practically hear them go, "Hey." So, what have you been up to? Are you any other films?
It was a quick transition. It was like I was in the story there. And
Oh,
then,
sorry.
And then boom. Did she say that?
Say what?
No, that's what I'm thinking.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, me and a friend were planning to move, so California.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
When are you gonna do that? Or are you
Well,
still?
I should divulge too much,
I got you.
but I'm working a lot, but not doing a lot of acting right now.
Wait until you get down there again.
Well, yeah, but saving up money,
Gotcha.
stuff like that.
You don't want to get stuck on a project
Well,
when you're gearing up to move.
Kind of already am, but
Oh, you are. What project?
I don't want to get into it. I'd rather not.
What do you want to talk about in the podcast?
Well, Trump?
Mm,
Nah.
no.
No. What about, what were you going to talk? We were just talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know, what's going on? When's the last time you've had Ben and everybody, you've been recording a lot of podcasts?
The last podcast I did, with Ben, or
Well, either. When's the last time? You guys have been recording every week, right?
no,
No.
definitely not. I did record a few days ago with I went up to Mr. Theater. I talked to Dylan Hellerman and Montetre.
Oh, yeah, right. Tell me. I need to listen to that.
Yeah, you should listen to all of them because we have such good conversations.
Sure.
Before that, it was like the 18th of last month.
Mm.
Calvin McCarthy was here. Natalie Lucia, or Lucia, whatever her last name is. I think she goes by Lucia, but
Okay.
Calvin McCarthy's an actor in Portland.
Sure, yeah.
Makes his films too.
Cool.
So
You got a lot of people on the roster then. That
there's some.
since I was your first guest.
You were.
Yeah.
You're the first guest, and you were the first returning guest. But now
The stakes are higher now.
I don't think there's any more benchmarks to make. Myra was the first female guest.
Right.
Uh,
I'm sure you could come up with something. The first three-legged guest. The first
that would be worth commemorating.
time-traveling guest.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. The first guest who was never a guest.
That's every time someone new comes on. You were the first guest who was never a guest, but now you are a
Fair
guest.
enough. Yeah.
And I think the time traveling guest would be awkward. He'd stare right into
It
my
would
eyes.
just be awkward. That's it.
No, it would be. He'd look at me in my face. I know when you're going to die.
Oh man.
I've been to your grave.
Because it's impossible to travel into the past. You can only travel into the future.
Well, then we're traveling into the future right now because we're going at a rate of 365 days.
No,
per
seriously,
year.
that's kind of the consensus, right? You can travel into the future. For instance, anytime an astronaut goes into the whatever sphere, this International Space Station or something.
Mhm.
They're going at such a speed for so long that they're actually a split second into the future. So basically the trip for them to say they're up there for 6 months, it seemed about 0.0001 seconds shorter to them than it was to us. So their
So they
clocks
couldn't really tell the difference.
no, but
Then
bear with me.
how's-
The scientific basis, it's all there. So you can go into the future. So if you're moving at a fast enough speed for a long enough time,
Mhm.
if you're getting close to light speed. So we're not quite there.
So,
But I mean, I'm just saying, if you're able to get up to that speed, that's all it requires for you to go into the future. So
why can't you
once
go into
come
the
back-
past?
A couple of reasons. Well, for me to say that definitively,
Mhm.
without a degree.
I got you.
But yeah, it's.
I mean, in like
think
your
about it.
estimation,
For one, if you understand science, if you understand physics,
very, very little.
well, it's just the basic fundamentals of time and space. And I don't see how you could not find this interesting.
Oh, cool. Oh, I do find it interesting.
Yeah, incredibly interesting.
I just know nothing about it.
Well, it's all there. It's all on Google. It's all it's on Discovery. It's all
But I want to hear what you have to say about it specifically, because that's more entertaining.
Okay. Specifically, going back in time is a huge obstacle because. Okay, well, just forget about the science. Just for one, there's a clear conflict of theoretical law because you cannot subject yourself to something that already happened. Because if you go back and change it, you wouldn't have been able to go back into the future, to go back into the past, to make it happen in the first place.
So that's what Doc Brown would call a paradox.
Yes. Paradox.
I got you.
Yes, Doc.
My question is completely a complete theory, if you were able to go, let's say right now, 2017, February 11th, 2017, the day we saw the Globetrotter game.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that's point A, and point B is, I don't know, the 1960s at some point. If we were to jump in a time machine and leave point A,
Then
and one second. I haven't got to my question yet. If you were able to leave point A and arrived in point B, would it be us just leaving the present and arriving in the past, or would it be the machine send out rays or flames or whatever to alter everything or destroy everything from the present to make way for what existed in the past? Is it a destruction rather than a travel?
Well, I would see a complete destruction, but that's the thing, unraveling of the fabric of space-time. So that's what I would foresee, because the law of the universe wouldn't allow the possibility for you to be able to kill yourself or kill your parents before they have you, because you wouldn't have been able to been born to kill yourself to begin with. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you leave behind the present to get to the past, the present physical world, what happens? Does it still exist without you, or does it not exist at all?
That's both a philosophical question and a question of physics. So, meaning...
Since it's impossible, it's impossible
Well,
to say, but in your estimation.
Personally, I don't think that you can exist in two different points in time at once. Now, there's quantum mechanics to it. So
No, I'm not saying that you can, but I mean the world.
Well, right, not just me. Yeah, I'm saying I don't think two different people exist at two different times at once, if that makes sense. Meaning time doesn't really exist.
So if we leave the present and arrive in the past, we've destroyed the present.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier, kind of. That destroy it, possibly more than just the present, but yeah, at the very least, you would destroy the present, wouldn't be able to go back to it. But that's a separate question from what I was answering anyway.
I got you.
Yeah, because if you're traveling back and forth, then you're implying that you can go back and forth. I mean, if you make one trip to the past, then you're basically implying that you can come back and maybe keep traveling back and forth. Which, if there's ever one trip to the past, it's the only trip ever.
So it's like a complete restart from that point that you've traveled to.
At the very least, yeah. What? At the very least, because...
And you'd have to come back in chronological real time as opposed to...
So, and that kind of leads to, I think, your other question, which was, basically, can you exist, or can people exist? Is there more than one time, basically, going on at this moment? I don't know. Is that kind of what you're asking?
Well, it wasn't what I was asking. Since my question was, let's say the world today. Do you mind if I scale it down? I'm still talking about the whole world.
You can't.
No, I'm going to scale it down a little bit. Let's say we're in New York and we get a wild hair to go back in time to stop September 11th from happening. If we went back in time, we arrived, One World Trade Center isn't there, but the Twin Towers are there, and everything is the way it was pre 9/11. Did we leave behind the moment we left this year and arrived? Did we simply leave behind One World Trade Center tower in another time, or was it destroyed?
The alternate. What I'm gonna answer is kind of a question, but it's the best answer that I have, because when we know this little. Although there are more questions, that's how you answer something.
Yeah.
So what's the next question? Well, are there alternate dimensions? Are there alternate universes? And basically, all we have are theory on that, right? So, but personal opinions and beliefs. I mean, I think that I used to completely doubt that the World Trade Center could exist separately. What you're saying is, did we leave it behind and it's still going on in its own universe, in its own reality?
Like that one tower that replaced the Twin Towers.
Right, the Freedom Tower.
Yes.
Right, is there a reality where there's a Twin Towers that never got destroyed, in another reality with it? Personally, I say no. There's only one. There's only one truth, only one reality. But I used to be completely closed to it, like not even like understanding string theory and quantum mechanics and how.
I still don't understand that.
Well, I don't think anybody really does, because that's it's so new. I mean, it's so advanced for where we are as, I guess, a species, but the reason why it's relevant is, first of all, this stuff is cool to talk about, but when you have something that can actually be used, that's when, for instance, every major breakthrough in the realm of astronomy, cosmology, basically the realm of exploring space, has been related to war. And that's a bad thing, but if you think about it, the
Cold War,
the V2 rocket, we got from the Nazis. Werner von Braun brought him over and started putting him on payroll. And
was he a Nazi, or was he?
He was, but he wasn't really. He's
like a Schindler Nazi.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I think he just worked for them. He was a scientist. He loved science.
I got you.
And he became a huge asset for the United States.
So he wasn't one of the Dick, kill all the Jews.
No, I mean, who knows his personal opinions, but when he got here, he was he was carried himself rather well, from my understanding.
I gotcha.
So Werner von Braun would change to Brown. Was basically the reason behind the V2, which is the reason the V2 rocket was the one area where the Nazis were really advanced during World War II, because they weren't when it came to the bomb. I mean, they knew almost nothing. All they knew is that we knew something. Yeah, the Soviets knew a little more, but basically.
Do you think that's why the quick side note? Do you think that's why they surrendered? Is they knew that we
the Soviets?
The Nazis is. Do you think that's why they surrendered, because they knew that we were onto the bomb,
I think
or was it just
they surrendered because Berlin was in fight. Nobody surrendered. They were just murdered until the Soviets completely demolished and raped and pillaged Berlin, and would have kept going until the highest Nazi. Even after they said we give up, they kept going. So, no, Germany was wrought into pieces. And I mentioned before, I didn't think that today there was much anti-Semitism in Germany. There is in France. There is in Russia today, a lot, but not in
the
Germany.
Germans are
because the Germans
guilty. They feel guilty about it.
Partly, yeah, but they got kicked in the nuts, so they had to face it too. So they actually saw it, whereas other countries didn't necessarily see it in themselves.
I heard this is a bit of a departure from time travel, but one more thing. I don't know if this is true or not. I heard that when Patton found one of the concentration camps, he made all of the local Germans walk through it and look at what their government had done. And it's like,
oh yeah,
and Patton wasn't exactly a friend of the Jewish people. He was a bit of an anti-Semite himself, but
I don't know that they even associated it with Jewish people at that point, or if he was or whatever. Not all camps were.
He just saw them as human beings at that point. I think
that's what he was showing the German people, what their own leader, quote unquote, was doing.
Yeah,
and this is why we're kicking your ass right now. And yeah, that was because they knew the Patton knew, and anybody who had a left brain knew that the Nazis were going to try to cover that up, even if they lost the war. So whatever they could expose would be exposed.
Well, because if they didn't successfully cover it up, which they didn't, there would be the Nuremberg trials, and a lot of them were executed for that.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think how many. Not that many in reality. I mean,
well, the higher ups were, a lot of them escaped to Argentina.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, it's a null subject, I think. But yeah.
But we got rockets from the Nazis.
Yeah, that's the cool thing is the V2 was the one area where the Nazis. But my point that I was making is that we didn't really have a desire to go to space, to put the money into it, until we had a reason to start spying on the Soviets. So that V2 we took from the Nazis, and then it built on it and built the rocket that would send the first astronauts into space, and eventually it would become a shuttle program, and the Soviets would catch up, and they have a much better program today. That's why our shuttle program was shut down. Among other reasons, they're better with the money. They're able to budget it better. But so the V2 was hugely significant in terms of being able to get outside of our stratosphere, or outside of our the gravitational pull of the inner atmosphere of Earth. So. But all it is like a Roman candle, all it is, and this is why our space shuttle programs had so many deaths. I mean, before they shut it down. I mean, Challenger, they had, how many people, it was like, you had like a 2% chance of dying.
Damn.
And they didn't calculate it that way. They thought it would be more like, 1 in a 10,000. I mean, they thought it was more like air travel. So because all we were doing was strapping on a bunch of fuel induced explosions. So basically, a bunch of fossil fuel, basically, get as much as you could get into a certain space, into the storage, the container, and basically explode it and hope that everything goes the way that it was intended to go, which I don't know how predictable combustion engines are, but that's kind of the base of it. So, I mean, I guess until we discover, until we really learn how to like live in peace and not be preoccupied with war, will we be able to venture onto our next frontier?
Who knows? It's hard to think that that'll ever happen, though. We've been fighting for thousands of years.
I bet it's improved.
It
Just the
has
numbers.
improved.
Just the numbers. Yeah. This number of deaths by war. So that's the one thing to look forward to be positive about.
It'd be nice to see some resources directed towards exploration science.
Yeah, more.
Yeah.
Than there are.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
But how did that lead to the string theory?
I think string theory was already around.
Gotcha.
But there's theory until more. I mean, it was around. It was theorized by people, and Einstein was one of those people. But there were more important things going on, obviously, with reasons to blow things up, that require a lot of science. So it's, So anyway, yeah, the string theory. I guess I don't think I'd really qualify to talk about string theory.
I got you.
Yeah, well, because I've only had like interest in it, but like I used to basically.
Hang on a second. Sorry. What's going on? Mom?
What?
What's going on?
Nothing.
Alright, I guess we can continue.
Who's this?
That's Rusty.
Terrier. Yeah.
Sorry.
You're good. Rusty. No, I'm saying, oh look, he likes me.
Yeah. Oh no, you back the fuck off.
Oh no, the cat's.
Where's my shoe? This'll do.
But basically, I used to not even really consider things like string theory as being really science.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was pseudoscience. But I think there's a lot of relevance, like as far as.
I guess we have to stop for a second again.
Can you put it on pause?
Yeah. All right. You're talking about.
I don't remember what we're talking about.
Time travel.
String theory stuff and quantum mechanics and that's really exhausting.
Yeah.
Because you have to like be able to hold on to certain concepts while coming up with new ones. And and this muscle up here, the brain. Yeah.
Gets tired.
Well, that's why I think Einstein had such bizarre hair.
Ah! Could be. Seems he electrocuted himself in his lab one too many times.
I don't think he had the time to worry about his hair at all.
He's too busy contradicting
He was-
himself on
yeah.
relativity.
He was, I think, he was preoccupied with dating his cousin.
Oh, he dated his
He
cousin.
married his cousin.
Just like FDR.
Did he?
Eleanor Roosevelt,
Oh wow,
his cousin.
that was a little more common, I guess, back then. It's kind of weird.
Kissing
It's
cousins.
really weird, actually.
It is. I don't think they were first cousins, but
Right.
they were still
yeah.
cousins.
But is that? Yeah.
Like, what's the You know, when you think about it,
You can still get.
everyone
married
is
to-
probably related to
But
someone.
not like that. But yeah, but there's an actual reason, which is what they call the genetic bottleneck. And we've seen it in like Native American populations who really encouraged to stay within their tribe. So they've got these genetic based disorders
Mm.
that we incur. We call a genetic bottleneck. So you don't have a lot of options of people to mate with, if you're limiting yourself to, that tribe or something. Now, back in the day, you would have only so many people to make children with, to have offspring with. So back in the day, it's 4,000, 10,000, more than that, 20,000
Yeah.
years ago, the beginnings of modern humanity. That was a real issue. So you wouldn't know that you couldn't boink your sister until you started realizing, oh, every time this happens, we have a child with 3 ears.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit beyond what really happened, but
So it's a weird thought, though.
yeah. There would be no reason to actually, prevent incestual type stuff, except for somewhere along the timeline we figured out that's most of us figured out there's still like tribes. I think that's not okay at all in any way, shape, form. Not just in terms of morality, but just by the fact of genetics.
The physical downsides
So
of
I think legally you can still actually marry your cousin. I don't know if that's true.
I don't think you can your first cousin.
Maybe not.
Maybe like
But is
by,
that,
by marriage.
I don't see that as a whole lot better.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get once you start getting further away, then it's less likely there'd be a genetic conflict. But
It'd still be weird though, like meeting someone falling in
Yeah,
love
but
and
think about
realizing
that's-
you're distant cousins.
the morality of it was created based on the biology of it. So
Oh, sure.
yeah, the morality came afterward. The social norms came afterward. So sure, but another tribe somewhere, that might be totally normal, completely obsolete to the world, completely like one of those tribes that, like the tribe of the, what do you call them, the Sinhalese. You heard of them? They're a tribe.
No.
Technically, I guess India owns the island, or the Sinhalese, I think is a tribe, one of the last uncontacted tribes that live on an island, North Sentinel Island, which is in the Atlantic. Not exactly. It's like the Indian Ocean.
Mhm.
It's near India, but it's like between Africa and Eurasia. But they're a group of, we think there's no more than 50 of them, probably less even, but could be more. We don't know. They live in very thick jungle. You can't really see everything, but anytime anybody's ever came close, either by air or by water, they've shot arrows, and they continue to do that.
Wow.
And one thing you got to realize is, to them, we are such a big threat just because of infectious diseases. They have no immunities to most of our diseases.
Would there be a way to help them get immunity?
No, I mean,
No vaccination, no
no, I mean,
vitamin C.
there just isn't. Not by exposing them to the world. No, there really is no simple cure to that.
Well, would they be? Are they aware of that, or if
They're aware. I mean, for whatever reason, they
they're shut off from the
prefer
rest of the
to
world.
be on their island and not be. I mean, there are other tribes of the other Sentinelese islands that speak kind of a similar language, but I guess even their languages we don't understand at all.
Wow.
So it's a really interesting case, but people will still drop by like rations of food, not people, but the governments, especially the Indian government, and make sure it's completely sanitary. And so they just, for whatever reason, and they take it and they use it, like the islanders. But one time a shipwreck, a ship got, what do you call it? I can't think of the term, but anyway, it basically stalled and ended up, stuck on the island, and the Sentinelese killed everyone on the ship.
Damn.
Yeah, and so this is a really hostile tribe, for whatever reason.
I think I'll stay away from their island.
Yeah, but as hostile as they are, we are a much bigger threat to them, and not even by our intention, just the fact they would be wiped off. Just the same way that 90+% of Native Americans were killed by our diseases. The only disease we got from them, what was it, syphilis, I think? Was like the only major disease that we got from them.
And that's curable.
Yeah, well, not now, but at the time there may have been. It was more deadly.
I got you. It's turned people really crazy.
Yeah.
Supposedly Hitler had it.
But smallpox was the biggest one we gave them.
Oh yeah.
We gave them, I keep saying. I'm part Native American.
Hmm?
I'm part Native American.
Me too.
A lot of people are.
Part Cherokee, I suppose.
Really?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's really interesting because there is no way to submerge people like that. There's no way to do that without one group dying off for lack of immunity.
So that's how the aliens in War of the Worlds died.
Well, to be determined. I think we're being contacted, not contact. We're visited regularly.
You think so?
Because,
What do you think?
well, there's actually evidence. I mean, there's a lot of evidence, and there's a lot of fake stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that may be something else, like extraterrestrials maybe like our government's kind of top secured projects or black projects or unacknowledged projects are stuff that like even our president doesn't know about, and stuff that's kept on the hush hush. Some of these projects are actual technologies that we're using, right, that are really advanced. I think a lot of people have seen these in the skies and thought they were aliens, but they weren't. They were actually our own. So most encounters, most UFO sightings, are not legitimately ETs.
Gotcha.
I don't think, but I think some of them are. I think a small fraction of them are.
Do you know where do you think they come from?
I think there's at least five different systems where they come from.
So none of them come from like Mars or some.
I think that they've been there and they may be even currently there. And I know that sounds bizarre, but when I've heard all the disclosures by people that like Dr. Stephen Greer, for instance, and you have mainstream guys like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Stephen Hawking who brush it off and say no, that we haven't. There are aliens because mathematically there's got to be extraterrestrials. Mm-hmm. We don't doubt that, but they just haven't contacted us. But if you really dig into it, there's been so much suppression by not just our government, but other governments of the world, for whatever reason, there's been so much suppression. We know there's been suppression about other things like JFK's assassination. I mean, don't most people pretty much now acknowledge it was an inside job at this point?
I have no idea what happened.
Yeah, but most people though believe at this point that it was an inside job, that it wasn't Oswald acted alone. I mean, there was just too much evidence that a guy named Howard Hunt, the CIA director, who on his deathbed, just in the last decade, I think, when he was dying, told his son and that he was one of the main orchestrators of JFK's assassination. That combined with all this other stuff, but
Do you think Oswald was involved in it, or?
Oh, absolutely. But he was patsy.
So the term patsy, the implication I get from that is, he was strung along as an unwilling accomplice.
No, he was very willing.
So what do you mean by that then?
He was not. He was one of many who, and if he was going to get caught, they were going to do exactly what they did, which was let him seem like he worked on his own as a Soviet sympathizer.
Did he fire the gun?
He may have fired one of the shots, but I don't think the one that hit him. No, the grassy knoll. There were shots coming from other directions. There were not just CIA operatives. There were mafiosos who were involved. The Kennedys turned on the mafia. The Kennedys, especially when Bobby got involved, because Bobby was killed too later when he started running. But Kennedy wanted, JFK, John wanted to eliminate a lot of things that were going to piss some important people off. So there were a lot of motives for doing it, but you know, there were probably more than just Oswald as patsies. There were probably mafiosos, but it's...
I've never heard any theories on this. Do you think Chappaquiddick was just a drunk driving accident, or do you think there were other...
Who?
Chappaquiddick. It's when Ted Kennedy was driving that girl and he drove off the bridge.
I don't know. I mean, I know that happened, but I don't know any details of it.
I gotcha.
I haven't read about it or anything.
I don't think there are any theories. I think he just got drunk.
Yeah.
And drove the car off, and that girl ran.
It's really sad, really unfortunate.
Oh, of course.
It's an awful thing to happen.
It's
in so many ways.
That dude was made of Teflon, though. He went on and had a long career. But, that poor girl. So, what about Bobby? Do you think Sirhan did it?
The guy who's still he was Muslim, right? He is. He's still alive.
I think he is. He is alive.
Yeah.
I think he's Muslim, and he's for sure.
And there was a lot of theory, a lot of he claims to this very day to have no memory of it and why he did it. And there's theory that this was related to the Project MK Ultra, where the CIA was implementing mind control techniques.
Is that possible to control someone's mind?
I don't know. I don't think someone could just control my mind, but I don't know.
Like they can't have a joystick.
You got to remember, there's different people. Some people probably are more susceptible to it for whatever reason. So there may be some people who have some mental illnesses that can be, if that makes sense.
Well, there's like brainwashing where you can convince through coercion, but mind control sounds like there's
it's not reliable. Let's put it that way. I don't think it's something that the CIA still practices or something. You know, it's something they've toyed with, and regardless of whether that Muslim guy was a victim of that or not, I don't know. I know there are advocates for him, not high up advocates even for his release. The judge to this very day is not hearing it. They've given him several parole hearings, and just because of the high profile of his case, Bobby Kennedy's death, they don't ever want to let him go.
the dude, presumably, I just presume that he did it.
Oh no, he did it.
Yeah,
But they're saying that he had no intention, no motive, no memory of it. His defense, and that he was actually brainwashed and all this. Pretty much legally, how would you prove it? You know.
Who knows? It's.
But he's liable. He's up for it.
How would
I mean,
he
regardless
murdered a
of the
senator,
reasons.
a
Yeah,
presidential
running for president.
candidate? So it's.
Yeah, I know.
I was surprised that like a few months ago, Hinckley got out of his mental hospital. That surprised me. I figured he'd be locked up, or at least I'm sure he has Secret Service watching him.
Who did he? Oh, he tried to kill
Reagan.
Reagan, yeah.
He tried to do it to impress Jodie Foster.
But if he did, yeah, bizarre. But if he did kill him,
insane.
he would not ever be out.
Oh no, he.
But let's go back to Oswald though. Oswald was murdered by, you know who murdered him?
Jack Ruby.
Yes, the Dallas police officer, sheriff, I think maybe sergeant something, who by the way died of a very rapidly forming cancer.
You think there's like radiation poisoning?
Well, let's think about it. Okay, we thought nukes were entirely harmless except for the explosion itself, where it turns out the fallout, the stuff that happens after the explosion left behind, is more damaging than anything. All the tests that have been run mostly by us and the Soviets, but since the two bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki have caused far more damage. Once the CIA realized everyone was getting cancer, well, what do you think they're going to do with that information? They're going to try to use it to their advantage. So, I mean, it just seems like a given that, of course, they've tried to, at the very least, if not succeeded, to give people cancer that they wanted dead,
There was that one Russian expatriate that lived in Britain that was presumably poisoned with radiation, they poisoned his tea. I forget what his name was, but he was like a Russian defector who was anti-Putin, and he openly anti-Putin, and then suddenly he starts getting rapidly sick. Rapidly
induced. I think it's usually leukemia, oftentimes the blood, cancer in the blood. Mm-hmm. But,
scary stuff.
Very frightening. And I guess the point I was making initially was that a lot of people disclosing the UFO stuff, because even the president would ask people like Stephen Greer, like, they're not telling me. The Foreign Relations Committee director, I need to know this stuff that's going on, but they're not telling me. And in other governments, this is a little more open than it is here because of that very thing. Is the government's been very successful at suppressing that information by both threatening people, and they would intimidate anybody, but threatening by killing them and their families if they continue to talk, and by killing them, or in some cases, if you're lucky, you got paid off or something,
Maybe the JFK was like, come hell or high water, I'm telling people there are aliens.
Basically, yeah. Basically.
It's... Yeah, I've absolutely no idea if there are.
Well, it's kind of like we're talking about quantum. I mean, this is all theoretical, but not really. We're a little closer on this stuff than we are quantum mechanics. I think still we're dealing with probabilities without things being documented until those documents get leaked or hit, they get exposed or we know it exists publicly. All we can do is speculate with the information we have, which I say there's a very high probability there are races of intelligent beings visiting us with technologies far beyond what we have. And what we do have, I think, our best stuff is being kept secret anyway, for a number of reasons. One is because it would smash the current industrial complex. It would destroy the need for fossil fuels and things like that, the
Mhm.
technologies that we would implement. But I mean, the stuff that you got to be a little imaginative, but at the same time, kind of understand facts and statistics and actual things that have been released, to come up with theories that are decent theories, that are not too far off.
Have you ever seen anything in the sky?
No.
I have one, and I don't think it was an alien or something like that. It's just I saw something
Unidentified.
I couldn't identify.
Yeah.
And it was weird. It was I was walking down to the main road from where I worked. It's about a mile walk from the work to this main drag-over road where I
Yeah.
could take the bus home. And I looked up in the horizon, and it looked like there was a suspended ball of fire.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
like floating in the air.
Sure.
It looked like it was like an explosion from a movie, but it was suspended in the sky,
Yeah.
and it wasn't moving, and it was just like it looked like it was like burning there. And I'm not saying it was just, it looked a lot closer than the star. I could practically see the
How high up
flame.
would you say it was if you had to estimate?
It's hard. It was like midway in the skyline from the,
Yeah.
and I was coming down a hill.
You couldn't tell if it was huge and far away or smaller and closer.
It seemed like it was further away.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear anything from it, but I just saw this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a balloon or anything. I looked at it for a while.
And where was it?
It was. I was coming down Cornell Road.
This is here.
Towards, yeah.
And
I was
how
going
long?
down towards 185th. I could show you the spot afterwards if you want, where I was.
How long ago though was it?
How long ago? It was about 6 or 7 years ago.
Okay. That's really. I mean, that's cool. Was it frightening or was it more awe?
It was like, I wonder what that is. I'll have to tell Ben later.
You didn't have a camera or mic.
No, I didn't. I didn't have anything like that. I didn't have a phone. If I had, I may have taken a picture.
Was it significant enough to, in one way or another, influence your opinions or beliefs on what you think about?
No. It was. I don't think it was an alien. But it was something in the sky that appeared to be like a suspended fireball. It wasn't moving.
I've heard of that phenomenon.
It wasn't descending. It was just staying in the same space. It was like a fireball, like an explosion.
Yeah, I've never seen that, but I've heard of that phenomenon.
You've heard of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've seen that, and it was weird. It was weird. It was a weird experience. It was like, and it was. For me, it was like kind of an oddity. Like, oh wow, that'll be an interesting story. I've been careful about how I've presented it.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't want people to say, "Oh, you're a nut job," but
That's
it's something I
the
saw
problem.
once.
Is that's
so.
how things have been controlled. I mean, if you want to be anywhere in society, especially if you go back to the 20th century, you couldn't openly believe in that kind of stuff.
Right. It's I don't think it was an alien. I think it was something man-made but I don't know what it was. I couldn't.
You think it was artificially made? It couldn't have been a scientific, natural phenomenon.
Well, maybe, but I don't. There's no explanation of it that
Did it
makes
move
sense to
quickly
me.
at all?
It didn't move at all. It was suspended in one spot in the air.
For how long?
I probably watched it at least a minute, but it was.
Did it stay there? I mean, did you leave?
It stayed there as long as I watched it, but then eventually I got.
You got bored of watching it?
I was like, I gotta get home.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
And it's
if it were stationary like that, I mean, I would. My first assumption would be some sort of planetary object, or a comet or something,
Maybe it was, but it wasn't moving unless it was like heading
Well, that's what I
straight
mean.
towards
Stationary is in the sky. It's stationary, so usually that means it's pretty far away.
It was bigger than a dot. It was.
Yeah, bigger than a star.
Like from my vantage point, it was probably, I
Something like
it was probably about as big as this. Like
compared to the moon. How big was it in the sky?
it's probably a little bit smaller than like when the moon gets bigger. A little bit smaller than that.
Okay, then a full moon.
Yeah.
Like a harvest, like a moon that's really big in the sky.
Actually, well, not okay. When the moon's regular far away, it was kind of
Okay,
around that
yeah.
size, I guess.
Okay, yeah,
Maybe a little bit bigger, but it was.
interesting.
Yeah,
Is it
it's
nighttime?
No, it was day.
Where was the sun in relation?
It was later in the day. The sun was. It's hard to describe because I'm not very good with directions, but the sun was going down, and because
Down
the sky,
in
I remember the sky was
west.
kind of pink. It was kind of a pink and blue sky,
Yeah,
and
it goes down the west.
it was going down in the west.
So,
But I mean, I couldn't tell you in relation to what direction I was
oh,
going.
you were
where-
looking at, yeah.
which way I was
Was
looking.
the sun anywhere near it?
I don't think it was. I don't think it was.
Yeah, those are.
But it was weird, and I have no
Yeah.
idea to this day what it was.
Yeah.
And it was like this like.
You're crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. See what I mean? It's that easy, you know.
Well, yeah. Well, it's, and I think, and I don't use the word UFO because that denotes a connotation. Because when people think
That's why I don't
UFO, they think flying saucers.
I don't like aliens either, because aliens is like either a foreigner or something that's usually wrought with suspicion. You know?
Well, I don't necessarily think it was an extraterrestrial activity.
Yeah. Well, UFO implies that you just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It actually.
Well, I think for a lot of people, though, when they think of UFOs, they think of like
aliens.
Independence Day, and
Oh,
you know,
so stupid. Yeah.
you know, or Planet
Yeah,
from Outer Space.
No.
And I don't think it was anything like that, but it was.
We have no resources they want. Trust me.
We must take their
Yeah.
oil.
We have nothing they want as far as resources go.
We must take the Kardashians.
Yeah. They just want our love.
We need 24-hour a day Kardashian coverage.
Yeah. I mean, something tells me they could take that if they wanted without having to invade.
Give us the Kardashians, or okay, take them. You didn't hear what we were gonna do? No, just take them.
Yeah.
Okay. Although, the father Kardashian seems like a cool guy, or a decent guy. Did you see People versus O.J. Simpson?
The series.
The 10-part miniseries.
Yeah, I saw a lot of it. I didn't watch it through and through.
I've seen it 10 times.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought Cuba was just a bizarre choice.
Well, I think he was a bizarre choice, but you know, I got past it.
Okay.
He's like, OJ's a bigger guy. He has a real deep voice like
Well,
this.
yeah.
And Cuba, a smaller guy, kind of a high voice.
High voice. He doesn't look anything like him.
No.
And
But you know what? It worked. I got to a point where I recognized it was a good performance, even if he didn't look like him.
yeah.
I prefer people casting that look more.
Well, but I think they cast him. They could have casted plenty of people who were less profile. They either cast him because of his high profile or because he needed the work. I don't know. You know.
Maybe a little bit of both. I thought he did a good job though.
Sure. Yeah. It was just
he-
they're so distracting though to me. I just thought,
was.
why so many other people could have taken this
I think when you watch it, the trick is you got to block out the actual OJ a little
one. Why
bit.
do I have to be tricking my mind? You know.
It's called suspension of disbelief. You always have to do it to some degree when you're
Some
watching a
degree.
movie.
Yeah.
Like, say you're watching a movie about a postman or a mailman. You can't like watch. That's not a mailman. That's an actor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you
Well,
have
it
to
used
throw-
to be that way completely, right? In theater. You go to the theater,
Mhm.
you have to use a lot of your imagination.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it making the leap from having Cuba Gooding Jr. be O.J. Simpson is a little
Right.
a little more of a leap to take, but I eventually got past it.
Sure.
What's difficult though is when I watch that, and then I watch the ESPN documentary Made in America, the O.J. Simpson story.
Okay.
That kind of, having gotten used to Cuba Gooding Jr., seeing the actual O.J. on screen is
Yeah.
like, oh wow,
Yeah.
that guy doesn't look anything like Cuba. No, but have you seen that?
When did it come out?
Last year,
I
2016.
don't think I did.
Fantastic.
It's so. These things are well done, which is great, but it was just the topic is so. Other than just the value of watching the film as an enthusiast of film,
Mm-hmm.
other than that, I would have no reason to watch it.
Well,
It's just we know everything there is to know about it. I mean,
uh,
well, maybe not. I mean, but I don't
I
care
think-
to know anything about more. Yeah.
the OJ thing isn't just about the murder trial. It's
Okay.
also about it's about his childhood. It's about him coming up and becoming a football player, his college
Yeah.
years, his pro years in
Did
football.
they touch on the brain damage from the football? Because that's a real relative issue.
I don't remember if they talked about. I know that's a theory that he might have gotten that.
Well, something they're saying they've seen more and more with concussions.
The dude that discovered it, that Bennett Amalu guy, the doctor, says he suspects that OJ probably has that.
And we're talking about
I don't think it excuses him from
no,
murdering two people.
no, but we're talking about maybe some mental illness being because of the concussions, playing football, this causing more tendency toward psychotic, erratic, or violent behavior. I don't know if mental illness is the correct term there, but
I think that's probably right, but I don't think that's what. I don't know if OJ has. I don't know if he does.
right.
But,
No, and it's not excusing him to any.
No. Oh, no, no.
extent.
But the thing is, I don't think he does. Cause not that I'm an expert, but from my own understanding of what it's CTE, that stands for concussion trauma, or I forget what it is, but what does it stand for?
CTE,
Yeah,
concussion.
That's the abbreviation for that brain damage illnesses.
Yeah, I think it's. What was it? Concussion is not the movie, but
Concussion's the movie about that, but
yeah,
what the disease itself is
is that the abbreviation?
CTE. I can't think of what the name is.
I think
CTE meaning or something. I'll look it up myself, but my phone's recording this.
CTE is chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
Can I see it? Encephalopathy.
Yeah,
Encephalopathy. Chronic traumatic enchiladas.
enchiladas.
I got enchiladas on my mind.
Enchiladas.
My understanding of CTE, I'll just call it that,
Yeah.
is that it causes short-term outbursts of rage, of uncontrollable rage,
Yeah.
in someone, and it causes them to take their own life,
Sexual desires,
or
things like that.
kill other people. OJ, like, just watching the documentary, you kind of see a prolonged, just odd behavior from him, and
Yeah.
odd behavior that doesn't seem to jive
Like,
with what the head condition is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And who knows, he might have it. I'm not saying he does it. I'm just saying it doesn't seem
No.
like he does.
I
Or
think
like that's a
for
factor.
whatever reason, but he's clearly. He's very much criminal in behavior. You know,
Oh,
he's done
absolutely.
so much.
Absolutely. Do you think? I think I can surmise what your opinions are based on our conversation that
About
we've
his
had
innocence or guilt.
regarding the murders.
I didn't think people really questioned that still. I thought,
So, I talked to Alan, and Alan Burrell doesn't think he did it.
does he like believe in some sort of just conspiracy about it? Like,
He kind of skirted the issue, and he's like,
or does he
I,
think he was actually set up? I don't,
he, I, I asked him, so do you think OJ did it? And he's like, I absolutely do not think he did it.
he was
And
that
we
serious.
talked about it on the podcast.
But that
actually.
serious, he wasn't kidding, right? You sure?
No, he wasn't. I don't think he was kidding.
Yeah, I don't think.
And I said, "Oh yeah, why not?" He said, "I don't know. It's been a long time since I've thought of it." but what do you think? Do you
Well, I think he's guilty of murdering
yeah.
his ex-wife and her lover. Yeah.
I don't think he was her lover, but
Or at the time, well, they were.
he was
intimate.
returning. He was returning a pair of glasses from. He worked at Mezzaluna, where she and her mother went to
And
dinner.
then he wrote the book. He almost published a book about the murder that he did.
That's a funny thing. The dude that returned the glasses that got murdered, Ron Goldman. I love the Goldman family. I think that like the father and the sister, I think they're amazing people. But they basically the book he was going to publish it to make money. It was If I Did It, Here's How It Happened.
Yeah.
Which if you didn't murder your ex-wife and someone else,
low morale to do that.
like why would you, like, if you didn't do that, why would you write a book like that?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
He has kind of, I think it was kind of a, he didn't want to go to prison, but he didn't want to not get credit for which is, the guy's a nutcase. Or
he sounds like a serial killer. They're the same way. They like getting credit for their murders.
It's, as far as I know, he hasn't killed anyone else.
I know, but I mean, well, I don't know, but I mean,
well, I don't know for sure.
But I'm just saying the mentality is there, where you like to brag about it.
It's, he wants to brag, but in a way that he does. God, he had a TV special lined up. I think the Goldmans sued him, but that's the Goldmans tried to stop him, but then the judge ruled that as part of their civil lawsuit that the judge stopped him from getting money for the book, but they allowed the judge had the Goldmans publish it, so they wrote a forward and they changed it to If I Did It, or they changed it to I Did It with a tiny if instead of the letter I.
They got the proceeds.
Yeah. But there was, that civil trial where he was ruled, culpable or civilly culpable for the murders.
Right. Yeah. Right. He was found innocent by criminal court, but in civil, he was
found responsible.
Financially responsible. Yeah.
And because there's less of a standard of proof in a civil trial. But I don't fully understand it. But the Goldmans took him to court, and they ended up winning a $33 million judgment against him, which I believe was to be split with the Brown family.
Yeah. And
that's kind of dominoed into that Las Vegas robbery.
Yeah, he lost everything. And he had everything. I mean,
a lot of things were taken from him.
Yeah.
And to help get money for the Goldmans.
It did domino into that.
Yeah. Yeah. And he got pissed that he was losing his stuff, so he went into that hotel room with a group of guys.
Yeah.
Supposedly he's up for parole this year, like in October.
It's frightening.
I don't think he's going to kill anyone else. The dude's he's almost 70 now.
But whatever crimes could he commit? I mean, I mean.
He's very... Another reason I don't think he has CTE. It's like something that just random flares of rage that happen.
Yeah, but he could still have it, but already had the some other illness or
Well, this is what I think though. He's been a complete model prisoner in his prison. Like never any fights with other prisoners.
Yeah.
Apparently gets along with everybody. Never any complaints about him. Which he's gotten paroled for some of the charges already, but he hasn't gotten paroled for other charges, which is why he's still in prison right now.
Okay.
But if he had that illness, don't you think at some point he'd blow up at someone?
Sure, I see your point.
Like,
yeah.
if at least if that was a factor in him killing.
You would think so, over a period of time. If you had a mental illness of any sort, while you're in jail for a couple of years or whatever, it would show up if you were mentally ill, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it hasn't, so, which leads me to believe that the murders were not caused by CTE, but by the motive of his jealousy of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Which, that part's less...
It's...
Like the motive part, other than there was a motive. That
It could be one of those things where it's both.
could be.
It's really matter.
But then why hasn't he done that since... both of the crimes that he's...
I don't know. I mean, it's like, who knows why people act a certain way under certain circumstances and why in jail. I mean, jail is...
But there's motives for both of the crimes that he was charged
with. Some people
with.
do better in jail, some people do worse. I mean, for whatever reason.
But if he has CTE, if it's a thing that affects the impulse control, environment...
I don't think they know, that psychologists know enough about it. You know what I mean? Because it hasn't been studied as extensively.
It is a new discovery, but it just doesn't make logical sense to me that something that...
It makes more sense than a lot of the shit that psychologists come up with.
No, well, the fact that disease exists makes sense to me, but pertaining to OJ, it did, like, both of his the murderers, which I guess are two crimes by themselves, but just the two things, the murders and then the robbery, both are precipitated by a motive, and not some brain flash of neurons that controlled him into doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's. I don't think that theory really holds water. That's brain trauma is making him.
Yeah. And which also may mean that some people who have had those multiple concussions maybe get by without an issue, without a hiccup.
I'm sure some people. I think you have. I think the issue, if I understood right, is people that get the concussions, but don't get them taken care of. If they ignore the concussion, and not get medical treatment, I fear, like they go home and go to sleep. I hear going to sleep after a concussion is the worst thing you can do.
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know why that is, but I've heard that it is. Have you ever hit your head really hard and like forgotten stuff?
What?
Like, have you ever hit your head really hard and like that you were like knocked silly?
What? Have you ever seen Andy Kaufman?
Yeah.
Like, when he was on Taxi, there was one time where he forgot his lines, but people were looking at him. They're right there, like in front of him. And I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. He kept saying that. And his co-actor gets pissed off and gets up and...
Oh, that was Michael Richards. That was on that Friday show. I saw the clip.
Yeah.
It was like...
It's really well known. It's a really famous clip.
It wasn't Taxi. It was like
right,
Fridays or something.
Yeah.
And Michael, that was the guy that later played Kramer on Seinfeld, was the guy that got up.
Was that Michael Richards?
Yeah, that was Michael Richards.
He looked older for some reason. Right.
It's watch it again.
Okay.
You'll see it's him. But He was played by Norm Macdonald in Man on the Moon because Michael Richards refused to.
No, he was played by Jim Carrey.
I'm talking about Michael Richards, not Andy Kaufman.
Oh, Norm Macdonald played Michael Richards.
Yeah.
Okay.
'Cause, like, for most of the people, I don't understand this, but most of the people played themselves in the movie, which I think is odd.
Yeah, they had the wrestler back. And,
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I love the movie. I thought the casting was odd.
yeah.
But God, that's a great movie. I gotta watch it
They
again.
didn't get a lot of credit.
No, it was made by Milos Forman though. He also made People vs. Larry Flint, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is
Okay.
probably his most well-known one.
Okay, yeah.
Have you seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's
yeah.
Nest? Great movie.
Yeah, he's a little unorthodox filmmaker, and he liked using. Well, you got to be if you're using Courtney Love as a main role. I mean,
He's in it twice. She's also
yeah, I
in
know.
it.
That's what,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was got Woody Harrelson.
I love that guy.
Me too.
He's so entertaining.
Me too. What do you think? Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, it's wrapped.
All right. It's been a great. We've covered everything from the Globetrotters to time travel theory
To the globe.
to UFOs to whether or not O.J. Simpson is guilty to brain damage. This has been quite an eclectic talk with Jordan Yaroslawski.
Jordan Yaroslavsky.
I'm Jeff Crenshaw,
This is the man, Jordan Yaroslavsky.
and you've been listening to Heavy Set Go. Whoa.
This is Heavy Set